On a quiet morning near the town of Qom, in Iran, a dozen empty school backpacks lay scattered in the rubble of a building meant for children. There are numbers in every war, they say, some too large to grasp, some too sharp to ignore. 165 young lives, ended by a missile guided not by aim, but by an old mistaken map. Picture that ruined schoolroom, sunlight breaking through broken walls, rows of desks that will never be filled again. The question that aches inside any honest heart is not just how it happened, but how the mightiest nation on earth, with all our power and knowledge, directed force with such blind error. It is a truth that does not fit neatly with the words objective intelligence or targeted strike. And yet, as the hearing rooms of the United States Senate filled with lawmakers, those old maps and shattered hopes were present in every question, every answer refused. Why would a director of national intelligence, sworn to serve both president and people, stand before the country and say, nothing? I ask you to hold that picture, those fallen backpacks, a Capitol hearing room tense with unspoken worry, and walk with me into the matter of not just what happened, but why a republic demands more than force, more than secrecy, more than even good intentions. But there is a burden within this story that most Americans have not yet been made to feel. When Director Tulsi Gabbard took her seat beneath the high lights of the Senate hearing, Chairman Warner and others did not waste words. They asked her, time and again, to say plainly what she had shared with the president before the order to strike Iran, and how, or if, she had warned of the cost. She declined to answer, holding to the shield of internal confidentiality. She said intelligence would always be given objectively. Yet a building in Qom said otherwise. The Pentagon called it a tragic mistake. Internal tables at the Defense Intelligence Agency showed the data that guided that missile was old, not tested, a detail the world only learned after the fact. Across town in Washington, the old stone walls of the FBI changed very little as Director Kash Patel appeared for his first public testimony. Senators pressed him about why so many of his agents had left, why cases of terror and violence rose even as the ranks of those tasked to fight them seemed uncertain, perhaps divided. Joe Kent, former director of the National Counterterrorism Center, could not stay. He resigned, saying, "I could not in good conscience give weight to claims of an imminent threat from Iran." His empty office now sits, a reminder that duty can sometimes mean dissent. Gabbard, questioned for her presence at an FBI search in Fulton County, Georgia, said she was asked by the president, but did not participate. It is one more answer in the pattern, a refusal to offer light, but not a denial of the shadow. Outside, across Texas, New York, Virginia, Michigan, Americans bury the latest dead from domestic acts of terror. In each gunshot, in each hate-fueled fire, a different truth about our time stands up, that threats do not end at borders, and that security cannot be measured in weapons alone. Why did the Senate press so hard for answers, when they so often met only with the quiet weight of secrecy? It is tempting to look at hearings such as these, all questions and few answers, and wonder if the details even matter anymore. But every minute inside such a room is itself a contest, the contest between power and principle. Congress is not just a stage for speeches. It is the voice the people send to ask what has been done and why, in their name. To see lawmakers press Gabbard, to see their faces wrestle with uncertainty, is to witness oversight, not always pretty, not always comfortable, but essential to liberty. The founders feared unchecked executive power more than anything but disunion itself. They could not have dreamed of smart bombs or digital maps, but they knew that any power left unwatched would one day serve itself first and the people second. Picture senators gathered around a long wooden table, the heavy air in the Senate Intelligence Committee room drawn tight by what is not said. There are folders stamped classified on the polished surface, but there are burdens heavier still carried in the minds of those present. You may wonder, what is truly being protected when a republic's secrets become thicker than its truth? What is lost when intelligence becomes a thing of trust, not proof? That is a question with old roots. The Republic has always lived with a tension between its need to act and its duty to know. In war, speed can save lives, but the cost of haste, measured in the sorrow of strangers, lingers far longer. Some say mistakes are the price of hard choices, but is that all our republic can hope for, or is there another way? History has seen this before. Let your mind settle for a moment on a dim-lit room in the year 1975, when the Church Committee first gathered in the U.S. Senate, shocked by the discovery of secret wars and covert acts ordered far from public sight. Americans then asked how they might prevent the horrors of Vietnam, the false reports, the lost sons, from repeating without end. The answer was not speed, it was not secrecy. It was oversight, constant, searching, imperfect, but always there. Pause and picture the Pentagon on a February morning, corridors filled with advisors and analysts. In a quiet office, a single page lies on a table. Operation Red Hawk, target, Quam Elementary School, source, pre-2018 intelligence. The ink on that date should have raised 1,000 flags, yet somehow no one called a halt in time. What then happens when the machinery of war runs faster than the brakes of conscience or law? Sometimes, as with Joe Kent, a man chooses principle over position. Kent saw what the data meant. He doubted the imminent threat being claimed by his superiors, and rather than stay silent, he resigned. In the annals of our government, the choice to walk away when you cannot give honest counsel is a form of service just as great as fighting on the front lines. Think of Kent's empty desk at the National Counterterrorism Center, the chair pushed in and the half-filled coffee mug on the corner. An empty office can teach as much about duty as a crowded hearing ever could. We ask, again, had America faced this choice before? Not just in the shadow of Vietnam or the pages of Watergate, but even from the beginning. George Washington warned against entangling alliances and unchecked ambitions. Madison pressed that only Congress, as the voice of the people, should claim the power of war and peace. Over the years, these principles strained under the weight of emergencies, World War II, Korea, the Cold War. But whenever principle bent, it always snapped back, carried on the shoulders of citizens who demanded answers. Imagine a young staffer in the halls of Congress, sorting letters from Americans in Texas, New York, Michigan, each one signed by mothers or neighbors or fellow students who had lost someone to violence. Every letter asked in different words the same thing. What is the cost, and who will answer for it? Is truth enough when the cost is paid in blood? Picture for a moment the FBI team searching the Fulton County election office, maps of voting machines spread out beside agents with tired eyes, while Director Gabbard stands nearby, a watcher, not a participant, her presence a riddle that only deepens the questions about who knew what and when. In the days after the strike in Iran, the head of the DIA sat before a small Senate subcommittee, papers trembling slightly in his hand. The quiet in the room was heavy with what he would not, perhaps could not say. One senator's voice, barely above a whisper, put words to what everyone felt. Does democracy survive if the people who wage war for us do not tell the truth when it matters most? That is the shadow that falls, not just across COM, but over the marble halls in Washington, the schools in Texas and Michigan, the bedrooms of those waiting for news of a loved one far from home. It is easy to blame one person, or even one agency, when disaster comes. But the lesson that rings from history is grimmer and deeper when oversight is worn thin, when secrecy takes the place of honesty, error grows common, and the human toll becomes unbearable. Yet, within this tale, there are embers of hope. Oversight still brings truth into daylight, slow and halting though it sometimes is. Senators who pressed for answers, Kent who surrendered a job rather than betray his conscience, these are signs that the machinery has not broken, but is strained by the hour. America has long been a land where no single voice tells the whole story, and no shield can forever hold back the sunlight of examination. The hearing room's silence could be oppressive, but it is also proof that the country still asks the questions that matter most. Some will ask, if the world is so dangerous, terror at home, war abroad, should not those who guard us be free from prying eyes? Should not intelligence stay silent, lest the enemy learn too much? These are not new doubts. In every generation, when fear grows, government's hand grows heavier, until the people remember that safety, bought at the price of accountability, is traded for an illusion and nothing more. In this way, every page of this story, every misstep, every silence, every refusal to answer, is a test of what sort of republic we wish to keep. Will America be ruled by secrecy or by sunlight? By the will of a single office or by the guiding hand of all her people? Think again of those backpacks in the rubble near Qom, of the letters on a desk in Congress, of the lonely chair in Kent's office, and of countless Americans gathered around televisions, waiting for clear, simple truth about the world. It is not only foreign danger that tests a nation, it is its response to that danger, the habits it forms, the courage it musters, the questions it dares to ask even of its own leaders. Let us not turn away from these questions, even when the answers come at a high cost. The founders gave us a framework of checks, balances, and oversight, not as obstacles, but as shields against error and tyranny alike. Our work as citizens is to hold each part to its promise, never mistaking silence for wisdom or secrecy for safety. Think, too, of the Church Committee's final words, written nearly 50 years ago. A nation that is afraid to let its people judge the truth and falsehood is a nation afraid of its people. The hardest truth for any republic to face is that sometimes dreadful errors will come not from her enemies but from within. Yet only a people brave enough to demand honesty and leaders humble enough to give it can ensure those errors do not endure. You may now ask, what sort of citizen does a republic demand when faced with such choices? The answer is steady, humble, persistent, not always rewarded with quick results, but never content with mere compliance. Such a citizen asks, calmly but firmly, who decided and on what authority? Not out of suspicion alone, but out of love for the country's promise. The day will come, sooner than we might wish, when these events are only notes in a textbook or memory for a gray-haired generation. Yet the lesson will remain. Truth is the lifeblood of liberty, and oversight is its beating heart. A republic cannot live by trust alone, nor can it survive if every secret remains locked from the eyes of those in whose name all power is claimed. Picture now the closing moments of one more Senate hearing, the gavel falling, the lights dimming, staff quietly filing out. There is a hush in the air, not of defeat, but of duty waiting to be taken up again in the morning. Not all news is black and white. Out beyond the polished doors of those marble rooms, in towns from Qom to Dallas, from suburban Michigan to the crowded streets of New York, parents, teachers, daughters, and sons will ask, sometimes in silence, sometimes in song, what does it mean to be safe and what does it mean to be free? To their questions, the Republic offers this. There will be errors, there will be heartbreak, but so long as her people are free to ask, are brave enough to hold every leader to account, and wise enough to insist on sunlight as the best disinfectant, the Republic can be saved. So I leave you with this. When the cost of silence is counted not in words, but in human lives, what duty remains for those of us who still have voices to ask?